Thank you for joining us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. Southward migration of Nigeria's herders is causing violent competition over land with local farmers. The relationship with the farmers and the herdsmen could have been very funny if it's not so tragic. The fact is, they are both necessary for food security, and their continuous clashes don't benefit anyone. Today on Earthfile, we focus on how to prevent the crisis from escalating. Just stay with us. Ikpakpo is saying Farm Settlers Association members in an emergency meeting. Top on the agenda is a havoc wreaked by herdsmen on their farms. They did not mince words.
Someone collected little loan of 250,000 naira, but couldn't pay back 50,000 naira. This is because the cassava and maize he planted in his 5-acre farm were eaten up by the animals. He became a debtor and ran away. He had seen people like that are now commercial motorcycle riders in Lagos. No one can cheat the herders, but then they treat us like animals.
They say for 4 years they have witnessed steady decline in food production due to the activities of herdsmen whose cattle ravage their farmlands. These men are particularly upset because of what they perceive as injustice by the law enforcement agencies. After all, they have paid for their stay in the farm settlement.
We settlers, when they allocated the land for us, it is written in the guideline that no grazing in the farm settlement. And we occupied the land from the state government, Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. All these Fulani rules, they don't have anything of such. And they are not staying in the same local government. They migrate from Itesiwaju local government. So that is legal. In the guideline given to us, Article 9 says there's no grazing. Even you, farmer, that the land is allocated for, you should not rear any animal. If at all you want to rear animal, you have to make a camp for them in your own located farm. So that is more reason why it is illegal for them to graze in the farm settlement.
Over the years, federal, state and local governments acquired millions of hectares of farmland, especially in rural communities, for farm settlement purposes. The settlements were meant to tackle food insecurity and unemployment. In Oyo State, the government boasts of having 9 settlements in Awe, Akufo, Ijayi, Ilora, Ogbomoso, Ikpakpo, Erua, Ido and Olowa, with some residential and others non-residential. These farmers plant mainly cassava. They contribute to the more than 4 million metric tons of cassava produced in Oyo State, which makes the state one of the largest cassava producers in Nigeria. But the Oyo farmers are not the only ones being affected. Across the country, there have been clashes between farmers and herdsmen, one group accusing the other of destruction of their source of livelihood. Farmers accuse the herders of damaging crops and allowing their animals to run wild. In some cases, they allege the herders' involvement in serious violence, including rape, robbery and murder.
Herdsmen attacked the farmers in Oganenugu community. Lives were lost, properties were destroyed, and properties were also stolen as a result of the action. 12 lives were lost.
The farmers accused the herders of delegating children to look after their cattle, who were unable to keep the animals on designated grazing paths. For their part, the herdsmen say they have no choice but to find pasture for their animals and argue that they are the victims of unfounded prejudice. For the herdsmen, their cattle are also important. The government says the business contributes 6% to the gross domestic product. The herdsmen also say while the farmers produce the food we eat, they also produce milk and meat for the country. Their supplies provide animal protein for many. And this is evident in Iseyin market, where many sellers like Elijah Suwebat Ajibotosho, who has been selling beef for 18 years, say the business has helped them greatly.
We make profit from it, and we take care of our children with it. I also went to the Holy Land. I went to Mecca. I built a house with this job. I take care of the children. Some are even abroad.
According to the 2011 National Agricultural Sample Survey, Nigeria had an estimated 19.5 million cattle. But by 2014, only about 380,000 tons of beef was produced. The Food and Agriculture Organization, meanwhile, said as of 2013, just 9.2 kilograms is the average total meat supply per person in the country. It is projected that 1.3 million tons of beef will be consumed in Nigeria by 2050. At current growth rates, Nigeria's population will double to around 340 million by 2030. The red meat sector is worth an estimated 1.1 trillion naira and at retail level about 1.3 trillion naira. Meanwhile, statistics published by Dairy Chain in 2014 puts the annual demand of milk in Nigeria at 1.1 billion litres, with estimated annual production greater than 400 million litres, while the annual demand and supply gap stands at 700 million litres. Currently, the Nigerian dairy sector is still largely characterized by cattle ownership belonging to pastoralists who are nomadic and go for days on long distances to graze their cattle and look for pasture and water for them. This affects the quality and quantity of their milk, with the output of milk per cow per day currently at about 1 litre compared to other African countries like Kenya and Uganda, where a cow produces between 30 and 40 litres in a day. Also, milk production is really not the mainstay of most pastoralists, as the cattle they rear are for beef production, while the milk they produce is sold through informal channels in various local forms.
We have the capacity to produce enough to feed not only Nigeria but the entire West African sub-region. What is lacking is harnessing the milk at the right quantity, the right quality, and delivering to the processing plant at the right time.
Historically, relations between herders and farming communities have been harmonious. By and large, they live in a peaceful, symbiotic relationship. Herders' cattle will fertilize the farmer's land in exchange for grazing rights. For centuries, pastoralists drove their cattle east and west across the Sahel, the semi-arid zone which is south of the Sahara Desert that includes Nigeria's far northern belt.